You are listening to the Warrior Project podcast, where mindset, tribe, and violence meet.
My name is Justin Garcia, also known as Master Chim, and welcome to the Warrior Project podcast. If you guys have not checked out thewarriorproject.com, please do so. Aside from seeing the archive of episodes for this podcast, you'll also see the way that you could join the Warrior Project Tribe, which is my membership site dedicated to sharing the content, exchanging ideas, holding members accountable, and basically trying to find a way to take the warrior-minded individual and level them up. Okay, so the query for this episode is one that is super important. It's a topic that I discuss often, and let's start off with the query. So the query for this episode: why is willingness important? Why is willingness important? Well, let's break it down. If you've ever heard of the concept of cognitive dissonance, it's basically the stress experienced by someone who holds some sort of contradictory belief, and it's usually, cognitive dissonance usually happens when somebody does something that doesn't quite match what they think is right or what they think is true, right? So that sort of incongruent holding of experience and beliefs behind it creates a stress that leads to all sorts of problems. Namely, if you guys have ever heard of something called PTSD, well, this is where that comes from. Well, being that there's a cognitive dissonance, I have something that I've coined and have used the term tactical dissonance. And tactical dissonance is basically having a plan, right, or a set of protocols that leads to that whole problem from the beginning. And this is where willingness comes in. So when we're talking about willingness, we're talking about figuring out what it is that we're going to be asked to do, what we're committing ourselves to, and what we're going to be comfortable or willing to do in the first place, and how we could find a way to sort of reconcile all of those things together. Okay, so I know that if I'm going to a restaurant and I am a vegan, I am not going to be willing to eat whatever is there. But if I'm going to a restaurant and I succumb to social pressure and eat a steak, even though I am a vegan, judgments aside, the case of this hypothetical, judgments aside, if I am a vegan and wind up eating a steak, I may, at that moment, socially fit in and avoid any of those social pressures and discomforts on the moment. But after I leave that restaurant and later on, depending on how devout my vegan beliefs are, I may have a problem with the fact that I did that thing, right? So some people are of the mindset that I'm not going to eat meat because it's cruel to animals, right? And it's the moral issue, not necessarily the health one. Well, they may start hearing, cows crying in their sleep or what have you. But the whole point is, they hadn't done the forethought necessary to sort of figure out, wait a minute, I'm a vegan, I'm about to go to this restaurant, let me see if this restaurant serves vegan options. Let me see if I'm going to have the ability to follow my beliefs and my lifestyle, even though I am in this situation and scenario whereby people are not like me and maybe expect me to do something that I'm not willing to do, right? And that is what willingness is all about. Willingness is figuring out, well, what am I prepared to do in this given situation? I know people that carry weapons, right? Whether they're a concealed carry permit holder or they carry some form of, improvised weapon, maybe a knife, whatever the case is. And one of the things I like to ask them is, have you ever seen that weapon used? If you're carrying a pistol, have you ever seen a video of somebody being shot, maybe with that pistol in that same caliber that you carry? Are you willing to still use that weapon even though you see what this looks like. Have you ever seen somebody stabbed with a knife? Have you ever seen somebody hit over the head with a bat? I know a lot of people that have some sort of blunt object in the trunk of their car because maybe they've seen it in a movie, or maybe one day they just figured that'd be a good idea. But if we're talking about creating a willingness that is congruent with what it is that we're being asked to do, well, if we are equipping ourselves with these weapons, are we willing to use them? And are we going to be okay, quote unquote, when using them has concluded? Right? These are things that we need to do preemptively. So willingness is important because it keeps us on mission. So I know that, to go back to the vegan hypothetical for a second, I know that if I'm a vegan, and by the way, I'm not a vegan. I love me some steak. But I know that if I'm a vegan and I'm going to a restaurant that does not have a vegan option, I may bring something with me. I may phone ahead and see if there's something to be worked out. I may not go to this event if I feel that socially I'm going to cause more damage by holding to my beliefs than it would be if I went there and found another option. But the whole point of it is I am thinking of all this beforehand. I'm thinking of all this before the sort of green light is on and it's go time. And that is where willingness is so important when it comes to the tactical design of what type of choices you're going to make in tactical-based decisions, right? So tactical dissonance is when you have that plan that leads to that disconnect, to that unreconciled belief and action. We want to make sure that we are never in a position that we ourselves have committed ourselves to that is going to lead to that cognitive dissonance, that is going to lead to that psychological trauma, right? So what's my take? Untangle these beliefs. Untangle these beliefs in relation to what you have committed yourself to do. Don't join the military if you don't want to kill anybody. Don't go to a restaurant if you don't want to fall off your diet. Don't go to a bar if you are a recovering alcoholic. Make congruent your willingness before it's go time. What'll wind up happening is you'll reduce hesitation. You'll reduce it to a minimum, and you won't wind up in a shrink's office over the ordeal. Hope you guys enjoyed that talk. Visit masterchim.com. That's where you put your email in, and you get my morning email called the Master Chim Letter. Sometimes it's announcements, updates. Oftentimes it's something that just happens to be on my mind and I want to share it with somebody. And the ones that sign up to the Master Chim Letter are the ones that I share it with. I send it out every morning and it's absolutely free. So you can go to the masterchim.com and sign up for that today. Aside from that, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you guys listening to this podcast. You guys have been giving me great reviews on iTunes. I appreciate you guys spending that time investing in the reputation of this podcast as well. See you guys next time. And remember, warriors, someone believes in you. Prove them right.